Well, thanks for clicking on to the 22nd edition of the Global Weather and Climate Report. I've done one today because there is actually a lot of very interesting things going on around the world at the moment. Of course, it's been highlighted and well advertised here on the channel that we have got a major, large scale hemispheric pattern change coming up. But one thing I want to emphasize, folks, is there is a lot of things going around at the moment with regards to hyping the cold pattern. You will not have heard anything about a beast from the east or snow projections on this channel so far because it's too early to say. But certainly the parameters are starting to close in somewhat on a cold pattern for even the British Isles. But at the moment, pinpointing things like snow projections, and we just simply don't have a situation that is primed for a true beast from the east type setup. And the reason why is because Europe isn't massively cold at the moment. And until you have a cold Europe, and then, of course, a nice strong area of high pressure in the north to transport that air from continent to UK and indeed Ireland, you're simply not going to have it. So I think it's important to emphasize that a beast from the east is not on the cards just yet. I say just yet because it is possible that we may eventually go down that road, but also there is indications that instead of the Scandinavian high being dominant, we'll have more of a Greenland block type setup developing. That becomes the more primary blocking area of high pressure as opposed to a Scandinavian area of high pressure. And that, of course, means that we have more northerly winds and northeasterly winds as opposed to easterly. So finer details always important to make mention of. I'm also a little bit concerned in the initial stage anyway of still some nagging influences from the Atlantic that kind of distorts the transport of colder air either from the continent or from the north. But certainly this is the latest snow chart for the northern hemisphere, and we're certainly getting there in terms of snow cover. This is the projection for the current setup of the GFS for snowfall. You can see here the difference as we move towards the middle portion of December. So we're also deepening the snowpack as well as expanding the snowpack. And I will hesitantly even show you what the northwest of Europe looks like for the middle portion of December. But of course, you have to take that with a pinch of salt. That being said, however, I do think as we start to move into the month of December, the chances increase for cold, and then of course as you get colder, the snow chances increase also here. But certainly, it will be an interesting ride. That's for sure. Of course, the one massive downside to all this is the heat and bill situation, and people simply not being able to afford to pay to heat their homes this upcoming period. And that is basically the reason why I've done the title in yesterday's video, that it's a tough start to millions of people. That is not a hype title to just for clickbait. It is, I do believe that I'm talking about the whole hemisphere here. I'm talking about North America, I'm talking about Asia, and I'm talking about Europe as well as the British Isles here. The entire overall northern hemisphere is going into a colder pattern, and I think it's going to put a strain on the system as well as individual pockets. Businesses as well as households are going to feel the effects of this upcoming cold period here. But this is the projections for today. This is the 2 meter temperature anomaly chart of Climate Reanalyzer. And you can see here warmth stacked up towards the Arctic region. We are starting to see the effects of blocking taking place. Very cold conditions across Alaska. We've seen Arctic Village in Alaska record its first -40. Yeah, I know it's the end of November, early December. These temperatures are nothing particularly unusual now for this time of the year. We also seen the first -50s, of course, in Siberia. As you expand that reflective snow cover, you're intensifying as well as expanding the cold reservoir within the northern hemisphere. Interesting enough, we do have a major temperature differential over particularly China at the moment. It is quite interesting to see some of the temperature contrasts that we're seeing as the colder out of Siberia pushes south, we're seeing some significant warmth further south as well. Qatar, after weeks, if not months, this is off Thierry Goose, based in Canada. After well above normal temperatures for so long, Qatar now experiencing low minimum temperatures here. So that certainly is good for player and the supporter at the World Cup. This is actually going back a little bit further than just a day or so ago. We'll also look at the stratospheric polar vortex situation here. Definitely think that the strong blocking over the northern hemisphere in the next couple of weeks is going to have an impact on the stratospheric polar vortex. It's a bottom up type scenario. The pressure, the build up of pressure within the low to mid to even high elevations of the 500 millibar level, that is then kind of pushing up against the 10 millibar level, and we are seeing response to that, especially over Siberia with warming taking place. It looks at the moment, certainly the modelling is indicating that we see that warming take place from Siberia towards the pole, but it's not really having any major impact on the vortex itself. It remains strong, robust, cold, and it looks as if we're seeing quite a significant, disconnect between tropospheric polar vortex versus the stratospheric polar vortex here. Something worth paying attention to. But as we increase, like I say, the snow cover, we are seeing the temperatures coming down, minus 45 in Canada. Interesting tweet here by our good friend Richard Trott. It was actually coming in from disclose.tv that Mauna Loa, I think, is that how you pronounce that? That volcano, which is the world's biggest active volcano, began to erupt after 38 years of being quiet here. Quite an interesting little piece of information there from Richard on that one here. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to do a global weather and climate report today, folks, is because incredible contrast. We've seen almost months of heat wave conditions across China. We're still seeing heat wave conditions squeezed into the tropical areas of China and further south here, but incredible contrast as Siberian cold starts to expand. We're seeing northern portions of China temperatures as low as minus 48.6, which is pretty incredible stuff. Yet 36.1 Celsius was recorded in the southeast. You notice here I'm not trying to pronounce some of these names. I wish I could, but I can't, and I'm not even going to embarrass myself by doing that. But incredible contrast here. Minus 48.6 versus 36.1 Celsius across China. I know it's a vast country, but that is pretty remarkable to say the least here. And you can see here that Maximiliano Herrera goes on to say about the record temperatures in the Koreas. We're seeing unusually late temperatures into the high 20s, even 30 degrees in Okinawa, which is a tropical island just off Japan. So we are seeing a huge contrast as cold air comes southwards with the pattern change taking place. It is squeezing out these record-breaking hot temperatures. But of course, as the cold air pushes south, sometimes just ahead of these Arctic frontal systems, the temperature actually increases further. Interesting stuff here. More abnormal heat across the Middle East. The temperatures in the Middle East this autumn have been incredible, actually. But many stations in Oman, Emirates, and even Bahrain haven't recorded any non-tropical nights. So that's 100% of the month of November. The temperature has remained above 20 Celsius. And even Caboose port hasn't dropped, and that's in Oman, by the way, 25 Celsius. It's not even dropped below 25 Celsius this year, and temperatures still as high as 30 degrees in Iraq. So we are still seeing remarkable temperatures here. There's no question about that. But as we go over to the African continent here, we're seeing some unusually cold temperatures starting to show up here. which is quite interesting. So sub-Saharan Africa is seeing unusually cold temperatures versus the unusual warmth over the Middle East region here. So certainly interesting. And even places such as Hong Kong, that's what I'm talking about, the temperatures as the Arctic air comes south, temperatures are increasing ahead of that Arctic boundary. 33.7 Celsius recorded in Hong Kong. That is 3 Celsius above the Hong Kong December record. So pretty amazing stuff actually. And remarkable warmth even in Japan, where we're seeing temperatures as high as 26.8 at Hamada, making it the warmest day on record for so late in the season. So very interesting stuff actually going on at the moment. Arctic Village, like I say, first minus 40 of the season so far. What we're looking at here, Arctic oscillation is going into the tank. The modelling actually indicating an even deeper negative starting to show up, which is quite interesting here. The North Atlantic oscillation as well is still expected to go into the tank as we go forward here. This is the temperatures for the month of November so far across North America. As you can see here, Alaska has been warmer than normal. We've had a colder than normal western, southwestern Canada, western and central United States, warmer than normal east. As you can see here, looking at the Asian continent here, you can see here a very, very warm China. Well, central and eastern China, of course, Japan, the Koreas. We've got a colder than normal western portion of China. Much of India has been below normal as well. Looking at Europe, of course, there has been a lot of warmth through the first 20 days or so of the month. So therefore, we maintain a very warm overall Europe. And then looking at the global picture here, there is plenty of colder than normal conditions associated likely with the La Nina parts of South America. Australia has had a very, very chilly month indeed. Much of Africa has been significantly below average as well, which is quite interesting to see here. So yeah, in comes the polar air. So of course this is China, Japan, the Koreas watching this significant pool of cold air emptying out of Siberia into central and eastern portions of China here. So we have got a major shock to the system coming, even to places such as Hong Kong, Taiwan, the Philippines and whatnot. I think we've got a significant spell of cold weather coming for this region of the world. Exactly how much it holds in place remains to be seen. But as we play it through the loop, you can see here the cold air descending southwards here, and then you've got a flood of very, very cold air regrouping over Siberia, as you can see here. Immense cold, that's for sure, for this region of the world here. And of course, you've got the deepest snowpack, the most expansive snowpack, and of course, therefore, you've got the coldest temperatures in the northern hemisphere. And notice here that the temperatures rebound once again over parts of Eastern Europe, as well as across much of mid-latitude Asia here. Looking at Europe here of the GFS, this is of course the latest run of the model, and you can see here what's taking place. So at this very moment in time, we are seeing chillier conditions here starting to develop. We're going to see it in the east wind develop, of course, but Europe not seeing a pool of deep cold, so therefore there is no beast from the east going to take place anytime at the moment here. But notice here as we play it through the loop, according to the GFS, we do have the cold pattern starting to hold, and it looks as if it's going to maintain itself through at least the middle portion of the month here. So this is off, of course, the GFS, and of course this is the UK and Ireland here. So certainly very interesting stuff indeed. And I've actually run out of time, I'm afraid, so you're probably glad to hear that actually. But yeah, a lot of things going on. Big changes coming up, big strain on the grid, big strain on households as we go into winter 2022-2023. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.